the production team asked me what was my Christmas message going to be about this year. I said I thought I might say something about light from darkness, saying the net result is this. At 6:30 in the morning, I'm in the middle of Bristol. Bad idea. I learned something this morning, that getting up in the dark is a tricky business. Normally I can negotiate our bedroom really easily in the daylight or if there's a light on, but my wife's shoes and the blanket chest at the end of our bed somehow seemed an obstacle this morning. And sadly I woke my wife up, which was not a great idea. But it set me thinking about the way we use the word darkness in our culture. We tend to use the word to describe situations, sometimes people, that carry a sense of threat for us. As Christmas approaches this year, I guess we're all very aware that there is the dark threat of global terrorism. Or again, while we're recycling our cans and our polythene and all that stuff, we're aware of the dark threat of climate change and the implications of that for our world. But then, on the other hand, darkness can be a lot closer to us than that. Sometimes we go through periods that we describe as the dark times of our life, maybe when we've lost somebody, or maybe when somebody close to us gets sick, or maybe we're just one of those people who suffers from depression. In the darkness, you live a fairly impoverished kind of life, a life that's less than it could be. I don't want to offload a huge amount of the Bible on you, but maybe this Christmas you could think about this verse. It's from John's Gospel, and it's the first chapter. And John says this. In a way, it's a kind of short resume of his Christmas message. He says, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has never overcome it. I can personally vouch for the truth of these words. It was a little over a year ago that my wife and I were involved in a horrendous road accident. For a few days her life hung in the balance, and then when she began to get better, we had to think about what kind of life would she have if she did recover. Would she be chair-bound? Would she have limited brain function? All the way through it, however, I think my family and I never lost hope. I think I could safely say that what we experienced was the light of God's presence in a really dark time of our lives. I was very aware that the light of God's presence makes a huge difference at the dark times of our life. In fact, I really do believe that the light of God's presence can make a huge difference to the dark world with all its threat that we live in. Christmas is a time for enjoyment. And I'm quite sure that a lot of you people who are listening to this message are going to have a great time this Christmas. But maybe it's a time too to think about the light and the darkness of our world. Maybe it's a time that you could just suspend the celebrations for a brief time and think about that. That in your life and in my life and in the world in which we live, the light of God's presence could make a real difference. I don't know about you, but I really like to give presents at Christmas, and if the truth were out, I quite like to receive them as well. And most of the presents I get have been lovingly thought about and handed to me, and they're wrapped up beautifully. But of course, what we're really looking at is the gift inside. Sometimes I think our celebration of Christmas can be a bit like this, that we get a bit overconsumed with the wrapping, the turkey and the mince pies and the Christmas pudding and the odd drink. But we forget the real gift that's inside. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has never put it out. Maybe this Christmas, in the context of our dark world, you might like to think about this and think about the light of Christ. Oh, and by the way, have a great Christmas.